It's White, and first up on Fox tonight, a suspected pill mill is shut down, maybe 2 of them.
More than 100 people arrested earlier for doctor shopping successfully.
Enough of these guys and send them to jail. Then those bad guys will stop coming to this state to exploit our citizens. But you've got to be able to do that.
Reportedly run by the same doctor.
One upset patient was arrested for obstruction, another for possessing a syringe, yet another.
When you hear the term pain management clinics, what comes to mind? Maybe you think of the so-called pill mills you see on the evening news, the lines of people being shoved in the cars. It's the reality of the pill problem in Florida. But does the media tell the whole story? There are plenty of clinics that distribute medications legally, and there are stories of people who have been helped by these clinics. In Florida, where abuse is worse than anywhere else in the country, the issue is on the forefront as lawmakers try to find the right method for regulating the industry. Some feel these clinics should be shut down for good, while others feel it's helped them get their lives back.
Every day you deal with these things. This is not something that people get over. I mean, it's been a year since I've used any kind of opiate medication, and there are days when my brain will just naturally, and it feels so natural to just flip back.
There is a lot of benefit to being a pill mill in the economic sense, in that pill mills typically, for the first place, they dispense the medication. That's where most of their money comes from. They dispense the medication, which encourages them to give a large quantity of it, and then they sell it from their office. They can make several thousand-fold profit off of selling something such as oxycodone to their patients. They often require that the patient actually get it from their in-house pharmacy.
Well, people that maintain that pain medication isn't necessary typically are people that have not had significant pain. They usually change their tune once they develop chronic pain. And chronic pain is defined as pain that lasts more than 6 months.
We don't see patients anymore who have been out in an alley shooting. That's not who we see. We see patients who were given a prescription and became addicted.
If pain gets so bad, you start valuing what type of life you have. In pain every day, and it starts emotionally affecting every aspect of your life, your relationships, your work, your emotions. You're not the same person you used to be. Your smile goes away, the glow on your face goes away, and you become like this ghost of a person.
Florida is an interesting case. I think it can probably be said that it started by accident, but the reality is by accident in the sense I think the opportunists saw Florida as a possible breeding ground for the legal narcotics.
One person who's had firsthand experience with the downside of pain management is Leslie Yount. Although clean now, she fell into addiction after she was prescribed from a pain management doctor.
You know, I believe my generation, and I really do believe that it's a generational thing, is looking for a quick fix. We want that magic pill that's going to make things better. And we've been told that there's a pill that makes things better. And there isn't.
That search for a quick fix brought Leslie to a pain management clinic where fentanyl was prescribed. She suffered from extreme pain due to osteoporosis and fibromyalgia.
Daily, my pain was, if not a 9, it was a 10. I mean, I couldn't do simple tasks anymore that you would think somebody my age, a 22-year-old, would be able to do, lifting wet laundry out of the water.
Mommy.
You play with this?
Like this.
There really is no such thing as a pain meter. There's no way that you can get inside of someone else's consciousness and tell whether or not they have pain. One of the things you look for reasons that they might have pain. For example, if they have a herniation in their spine, or they have severe osteoarthritis, for example, and they claim to be in pain. You can't really things like blood pressure or heart rate because they're not a very valid.
I understand reality. As the chief legal counsel for Pinellas County, I have. Everybody's different. Everybody's going to react to the legal narcotics differently. And I want to make a side note on this. They're narcotics. These pills, especially Oxycontin, oxycodone, could be interchanged with heroin. That's a fact. We see that on the streets. The drug companies have ingeniously given these legal narcotics the term painkiller. So now we have the press and everyone on painkillers. The reality is the drug companies have been ingenious at creating the legal narcotics, the product that essentially is coming from the opium plant in Afghanistan, and they're calling them painkillers now.
PAR is a nonprofit treatment center in Tampa, patients for substance abuse and addiction, typically by administering methadone and offering counseling.
Today we see mostly people who have had an injury of some sort. Like I said before, they may have gone to their PC or they went to a pain doctor and became addicted on the pills. Recreational use, although fewer than the ones that have been injured and started that way, is still a good percentage.
So I was taking 100 micrograms. It wasn't working. A pharmacist naively said to me, now don't lick these or put your hands, or where you've touched the sticky part, put it in your mouth because you'll get really high or you could possibly die. Well, I didn't hear the or could possibly die, I just heard the you could get really high. And I thought, well, if a normal person could get really high, it will at least help a little bit. So after I was done putting a patch on one day, I was just like, And yeah, it took away the pain, I mean, instantly. And then once I figured out that I could get that euphoric feeling that I got the first time by sucking on, it was over. From there, there's not a lot of sanity left in the story.
At that point, Leslie was crossing the line between dependency and addiction.
Dependence is to the fact that if a patient takes opiates on a consistent basis, before long they become dependent upon it, which means that if they abruptly stop taking the medication, they'll experience withdrawal symptoms, and these can be extremely uncomfortable. Addiction refers instead to compulsive drug seeking for purposes of getting high or altering your consciousness, and it usually gets you into trouble at home or at work or with the authorities.
The drug companies have been ingenious at keeping the information of the dangers away, not only pharmacists, but your doctors also, because the information from the pharmacy companies, from the pharmaceutical companies, is that these are safe when taken as prescribed. It's only the abuser that gets themselves in trouble. It's only those people that misuse the drug. So unfortunately, way too many people in the professions, both on all the professions, whether it be medicine, pharmacy, nurses, huge misunderstanding of how dangerous these drugs are.
There's quite a stigma against pain medication. I have found that the vast majority of physicians are ignorant when it comes to pain management, and they tend to be very negative. They make patients feel very bad to discover that they're taking opiates. And I think one of the reasons that physicians are ignorant in this area is they're not really educated in the use of opiates in pain management in medical school. And so basically what they're doing is they're passing back misconceptions between themselves. And this can really make patients very frightened in terms of taking pain medication.
My husband is amazing. He really is amazing, amazing man. I don't know how I've been blessed to have him in my life, but he stuck by me and took care of me, and some people will call it enabled, but he did everything he knew how to do without having any sort of understanding of addiction to protect me from me that he could. Right towards the end of my addiction, he was holding my son in his arms, and he said, he had my prescription of fentanyl. I'm sorry, I get emotional. He had my prescription of fentanyl in his hand, and he had my son in his other hand, and he said, if you don't stop these, I am taking our son and I am leaving. And I said, well, go ahead and go. But prescriptions. He didn't leave. He went on the internet. He called Hyde Park Counseling Center. He found out where I had to go for detox, where I could do 30 days that our insurance would cover. You know, he stepped up, got me the treatment that I didn't know that I was unable to see that I needed. Who does that? Who says just go ahead and take my son and leave? A 1-year-old, the cutest in the world, mind you. Curly blonde hair, gray, greeny blue eyes, and who looks at their child and says, please take them and go. But at the time, I really felt like they would be better off if I would just die, because I would not want anybody to have to love somebody like me. It's heartbreaking that this is still going on, and that there's still people out there that are suffering, and that there's still clinics running that we all know, even if you are not somebody who has had addiction, you know where these clinics are, who these doctors are, and no one has shut them down yet. It's very sad.
Lawmakers are trying to figure out how to fight this problem. So what does this mean for Florida? And what has changed with how the system is regulated?
The legislation is slightly broad. It basically says that the board has to put into place rules that dictate the prescribing, that dictate the licensure, that dictate how many physicians, that dictate the types of clinics, etc. The thing that's actually quite specific are the rules that are placed by the Board of Medicine. Those are the rules that dictate, for example, that there has to be a board certification, that there has to be a certain fellowship, that there has to be full medical history before you get a patient. They also dictate the types of prescriptions, the type of treatment. The new board rules, which are going into effect November 28th, dictate that treatment cannot be opiate-based only. It must be multidisciplinary, which means, for example, that exercise, weight management, physical therapy, and things such as that must be taken into place. The board rules, also mentioned before, dictate the number of prescriptions that can be written per day.
That's a great term, isn't it? Male enhancer. An individual can still, under the drug monitoring law, see as many doctors as they want. There is no monitoring of how many doctors you see. So you can go get a 10 different doctors. You can get one filled here in Florida. You can send one off to mail order. On your way back to Kentucky, you get one filled in Alabama, Georgia, Tennessee, and back home in Kentucky. So the reality is the legislators created rhetoric, but the reality is going to be hard to keep the tourists away.
Anytime a law or ordinance is enacted, if there are people with ill intent, they'll find a way to go around that. So they are trying to find loopholes, the legislation and ordinances, and as we locate those, we'll try to address those as well. But again, anytime there's a criminal element out there, they're going to try to find a way to circumvent the law.
Our state attorney's office recognizes that we have the problem here in Hillsborough County, and they went off those man sentencings for prison terms. So I've seen all our cases go, the ones that I've worked, and then again, you're looking at normal citizens. Some of them don't have criminal records. Some of them might have been arrested for driving on a suspended license. They might have a petty theft when they were a juvenile. So we're not just seeing the hardcore criminals in this game. You know, we're seeing the normal people that don't realize that if you sell 4 grams of your pills, then you're going to go to prison for 3 years. And no ifs, ands, or buts.